Hi, I'm Rachel. I am making my presentation for assignment 3, promotional tools. I have a couple things to apologize for. The lighting is awful in my apartment and the sun has now set, so this is about as good as it's going to get. I've tried with multiple lights to make it better and it's just not doing it. Also, my computer screen is only partially visible because if I show you the whole screen, you will not see me. So I'm doing the best I can. Also, I have a cat here who is very distracting and might get in the way a few times, so just bear with me. So, what did I do? I did a blog post. I have never done a blog before. I've never written to have other people read it, aside from assignments in school. So that was a bit out of my comfort zone. I don't usually share my opinions with people I don't know. So throwing it out on the internet for all to see is a little scary. But I do really enjoy writing, and I am a fairly opinionated person, so I thought it was a good start for me. So I wrote my blog less with the focus of training and exercising and things like that, and more of a focus on just wellness in general. I find that there's just so much information available on the internet with workouts and training and exercise that it's kind of oversaturated, and it's really hard to have an opinion on something like that. Like, I can't really write an opinionated piece on squats. I hate doing them. I love the exercise, but I can't really have an actual opinion on them. So I decided to write more on like wellness and social, I guess, aspects of this industry and just in general. So let's get right in. I wrote my first blog post on fat shaming. So it's called Fat Shaming Doesn't Help Anybody. Especially in this industry, it is everywhere. Everyone who is not a size 0 or size 2 has experienced some kind of fat shaming in their life. I've experienced a lot of fat shaming, whether it's indirectly or directly. So for me, it's something that I'm very passionate about. I have a lot of friends who are very passionate about it. And I know that it doesn't help. So if someone is overweight, telling them that they're overweight and telling them how unhealthy they are isn't going to help. So I wrote a big piece on that. That was probably my longest blog post because I have a lot to say about that. This one I actually also spent a lot of time on research and found some scientific articles explaining why fat shaming doesn't help. Sorry, my cat's being ridiculous. So I have some references at the bottom and everything from everything that I found. The next one was why all women should lift heavy. So I said I wasn't doing anything on exercise, but I mean, I guess I kind of lied. More so just more of like the opinion on exercise and everything. So I come from a powerlifting background, which also helps with my last post because I've never been a size 0 or a size 2. Powerlifting is one of the sports that you don't need to be lean and have a really low body fat percentage. So anyways, I wrote another longer blog post on why I think women should be lifting heavy. In my experience, like a lot of my friends and my family have all been too afraid to step into the weight room because there's so many guys in there and they think they're going to get bulky, and I think that's total BS. And so do a lot of scientists. So I think this one I also put a bit of some scientific journals in there as well. So I went pretty in depth with this one. Next one. Oh, okay. So this one was a fun one. What I learned going from omnivore to vegan and back to omnivore. So this one's more obviously of like a lifestyle kind of post. I was vegan/vegetarian for 7 years. And about a year ago went back to eating meat again. And so this is more of just like my experience and what I felt during my vegan and vegetarian phase, and also when I went back to eating meat and everything in between. So yeah. Next one, an open letter to self-care naysayers. So I wrote this one a few weeks ago when I had an influx of Facebook posts on my feed saying some pretty ridiculous things about self-care and how it shouldn't all be bubble baths and chocolate cake, and we shouldn't have to find, I don't remember what they said, it shouldn't have to need a regular escape from everyday life. And I took some issue with that because so many people don't have the luxury of building that better life in the moment. So sometimes bubble baths and chocolate cake are really important for people. If you feel better about your current situation that you can't change by engaging in certain self-care things like this other article said is not self-care. I disagree. I think it is self-care. If you're taking care of yourself by doing whatever it is that you need to do in that current moment, that is just fine, even if it's not building a better life, because not everybody can do that. We don't all have the luxury of having the opportunities to create a better life all the time. So I'm pretty passionate about that one as well. Next one. Oh, what I learned during my first month of intuitive eating. So this one was a bit of a vulnerable one for me. I recently sought the help from a dietitian about disordered eating. So I did include a trigger warning at the top of this post because it is sensitive nature and it talks quite a bit about eating disorders and disordered eating. So anyways, I saw a dietitian recently who helped me understand what intuitive eating is. And this is by no means like a recommendation or anything. It's just my personal opinion and my experience over this past month. But I thought it was something really interesting because I didn't know what intuitive eating was when I started, and it has proven to be pretty neat and pretty helpful. So I wanted to write a bit about that. So yeah. So that was my 5 blog posts. Jumping into what was challenging was writing more than that. I found that currently I'm doing my practicum, and then I also have 2 other courses aside from this one. Plus, I'm also working. So I've had a really hard time keeping on track of posting blog posts. I also got strep throat right in the middle of that. So I was down and out for about a week and a half. So I just did the minimum. I only did 5 blog posts. Could have easily done more if I didn't have so much going on. Something else that I found was challenging was the tech aspect of it. I was completely unable to get it all working in one shot. I have never used a blog platform of any sort. So this Wix one was the most recommended. I had to do a Google search to find out what websites you can write blogs on. Wix was the most highly rated one, so I used that one. But it was a lot more complicated than I expected, and I also had some difficulties noticing that 3 of my blog posts were still saved as drafts instead of published. So my first 2 went just fine, and for some reason the last 3 saved in my drafts for like 2 weeks. So I only posted those today because I just finally noticed. So no one has read them yet. If anyone has read my other ones, I'm not sure. But yeah, I think that's probably the most challenging part of this entire thing was getting the website to work, and I fiddled with it for like 2 hours the first night. And that was really hard. And just also coming up with things to talk about. I feel like I'm not that interesting of a person and I don't have that many things going on, that it was really hard to think of topics to write about. That was also part of why I only wrote 5, was because I couldn't think of anything else to write about. So yeah, that was really tough. Well, I actually really enjoyed writing. I haven't written anything in years, aside from the scholarly type assignments in the classes here in 8. But I haven't done like any kind of personal writing in ages. And I also haven't done any kind of, I guess it would be kind of considered like a, I don't know what those are, not mind mapping, but like a brainstorming kind of, I just kind of go off on a tangent and just write whatever I feel like writing. And that was it was oddly satisfying. I would start writing about what I feel, and usually when I'm writing for assignments, I do a draft and then I refine it and I make it sound better. And there's so many rules, but I found that my blog posts, I didn't have any of those rules to follow. So it's a lot of just kind of straight from my brain onto the paper or onto the computer, and not as much filtering, which is really handy. It was just kind of everything that was coming out of my brain was just going straight onto the article. And it was really fun. I found it really helpful, and it was nice. It was almost like I was writing in a journal that is only for me, but also is for other people. Yeah. So I thought that was really interesting, and I really enjoyed it. So I would probably use this in my real, like, day-to-day life if I wasn't quite as busy. So maybe when I'm done with my school and I'm not working at my other part-time job anymore, then I would absolutely use a blog post as a real-life marketing tool, just like what my coach does. What would I do differently? I would probably try and set out time maybe every few days or once a week or so to get like a brainstorming session in. And even like whenever I come up with ideas, write them down, because I've come up with some ideas over the course of this past month, and I won't write them down, and then I'll completely forget what I was going to write. Also setting aside time to do this, because it wasn't something that was due right away. It was harder to manage my time for it. So coming up with like a timeline, and even if it's just for, brainstorming, I think that would be really helpful, instead of just leaving it to a specific day. Like if I was like, hey, I'm going to write on Tuesdays and like every 5 days from this Monday, whatever. Instead of having that in my calendar for just that time, I think spreading it out over multiple days and shorter bouts would be a lot more helpful, because then I could kind of digest what I'm thinking and what I'm writing and have a better finished product. So yeah, I think that is it. It is, yes. So this concludes my presentation on my promotional tools assignment, and thanks for watching.